Hello, esteemed gentlemen. The most silent man in the room isn't ignoring you, he's studying your exit strategy. They say you should fear the loud ones, the ones who bang tables, raise voices, and flex egos, but that's cute, because the real threat is the one who doesn't even try to be one. Here's a fact to chew on. 95% of human communication is nonverbal, and Sigma males are fluent in every unspoken dialect. While everyone else is out here talking over each other, the Sigma is taking notes, in a language you don't even know you're speaking. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable. He doesn't want your spotlight. He doesn't want your praise. Hell, he barely wants to be in the same room. But when he is, something shifts. You feel watched, not by a predator, but by something worse. Someone who already knows your next 3 moves and is bored by them. And let's be honest, you can't really compete with someone who's playing chess while you're out here emotionally checkersing your way through life. In this video, we're going deep into why the scariest thing about a Sigma isn't what you think. It's not his silence, his solitude, or even his unpredictability. It's the calculated calm before a storm that never announces itself. Brace yourself. The most dangerous presence is the one that doesn't need to prove a thing. Number 1. He knows exactly how you'll betray him, and still lets you try. He knows you're going to betray him. Maybe not today, maybe not even this month, but eventually you will. And the scariest part, he won't stop you. He'll let it play out, exactly the way you think he didn't see coming. That's where people get it wrong about Sigmas. They think his silence means he's clueless. They assume he's too detached, too calm, too uninvolved to notice the shift in your tone, the delayed replies, the energy that used to be consistent but suddenly feels off. But he caught it long before you knew it even changed. Sigma males don't react like others. They don't call you out, they don't confront you, and they sure as hell don't beg for clarity. They watch, not because they're passive, but because they're strategic. The betrayal itself isn't what surprises them. They've already predicted it. What they're studying is how you're going to do it, who you'll become in the process. And when it finally happens, when you flip ghost, talk behind his back, or twist the knife just a little, he doesn't explode, he doesn't chase, he just detaches, cleanly, completely, permanently. That's what makes it terrifying. You think he'll come back and ask why. You expect a scene, some emotional outburst, but all you get is silence. And that silence is heavier than any confrontation could be. You don't realize it yet, but that was the moment he mentally erased you. Access revoked, loyalty dissolved. He's not angry, he's finished. The Sigma understands that betrayal is human nature. He just doesn't forgive the pattern. He lets you show it. He needs to see it, raw and unfiltered, so he never gives you another shot. It's not bitterness, it's calculation. He gives you rope not to hang yourself, but to see how far you'll go with it. And when you think you got away with it, he's already closed the book with your chapter torn out. What makes it all worse? You'll never get a second chance. Not because he hates you, but because he respects himself. And a man who doesn't beg, doesn't explain, and doesn't return, that's the one you remember forever. Number 2, he doesn't need to be feared. He just is. He doesn't try to intimidate anyone. He just does, not by force, not by words, but by presence. You feel it before you even realize it. The way conversations dip when he walks in, the way eyes shift without understanding why. It's not because he demands attention, but because he refuses to seek it. And that quiet refusal, that unnerving stillness, it disorients people. Most people rely on social cues to gauge their place. Smiles, small talk, reactions. But the Sigma gives none of that. No forced friendliness, no fake nods. Just a still, unreadable calm that makes people question themselves. He doesn't need to compete, charm, or outperform. The fact that he doesn't try at all is what shakes people, because if he's not trying to impress anyone, what does he know that they don't? He isn't aloof, he's just completely uninterested in validation. And when someone walks through life not caring if they're liked, accepted, or feared, others don't know where to place him. You can't control someone who doesn't want anything from you. You can't guilt, flatter, or pressure him. So people fall back on instinct. They fear him. Not because he's a threat, but because he's a mirror they can't read. And what you can't read, you can't manipulate. His presence disrupts the usual hierarchy. Social peacocks and loud personalities lose footing around him. Their tricks don't work. Their energy bounces off, and deep down it terrifies them. Because they realize this man isn't playing their game. He's not in it for points, applause, or followers. He's not in it at all. What's truly scary is that he doesn't even notice the power he holds. He just is. While everyone else is busy trying to be someone, the Sigma is completely fine being no one. And that kind of psychological independence, that's not arrogance. That's untouchable. And people fear what they can't touch. Number 3. He doesn't want to fit in. He wants to find out what happens when he doesn't. Fitting in has never been the goal. To the Sigma, blending into society's expectations feels like wearing someone else's skin, tight, false, suffocating. He sees conformity for what it really is, a slow death disguised as acceptance. Where others chase belonging, the Sigma questions the cost. What are you giving up just to be part of the group? Your values? Your edge? Your mind? While most people are terrified of standing alone, the Sigma is terrified of disappearing into the crowd. He knows that once you start bending to fit in, you slowly forget where you end and the world begins. That's not life, that's camouflage, and he refuses to live that way. But here's the unsettling part. He doesn't reject conformity to make a statement. This isn't rebellion for style points. He doesn't care if anyone notices. He vanishes not for attention, but for discovery. He disappears from the noise to find what's real, what's raw, what hasn't been filtered through society's desperate need to be liked. That search for truth, for something untouched by trends, approval, or applause, is what makes him dangerous. Because once someone is willing to stand outside the system, they start to see all the cracks in it. And they can't unsee it. That's what sets the Sigma apart. He doesn't just walk away from the herd, he studies it from a distance. He watches how easily people give up their identity just to avoid discomfort. And the more he sees, the less he wants to return. The Sigma isn't anti-social, he's anti-fake. He's not looking for a tribe to worship him or a movement to lead. He's looking for reality beneath the surface, and he's willing to go alone to find it. That kind of detachment, that refusal to play the game, doesn't just make him an outsider, it makes him dangerous to systems built on obedience. And the scariest thing? He doesn't care if you approve of his path. He just wants to know what happens when he stops pretending he needs one. Number 4. He'll make you confront the one thing you run from, yourself. Being around a Sigma male is like standing in front of a mirror that doesn't flatter you. He doesn't insult you. He doesn't judge you. He just exists with a kind of raw, unshakable self-awareness that makes your carefully constructed image start to crack. And he doesn't have to say a word to make it happen. That's what's so unsettling. You start to notice your own habits, your fake laughs, the way you shrink or exaggerate yourself around others. And it's not because he calls it out. It's because he doesn't play along. He won't coddle your ego. He won't validate your drama. He doesn't feed your need to be constantly reassured. And when someone refuses to reinforce your illusions, those illusions start to collapse on their own. Most people don't know who they are without the roles they play. But the Sigma doesn't care about roles. He sees right through them. And worse, he doesn't even acknowledge them. It's this emotional indifference that creates discomfort. Because when you're used to being the center of attention, or used to people reacting to your moods, being around someone who gives you nothing back is like emotional starvation. You start to panic. Not because he's cruel, but because he forces you to sit in your own silence. And if you've been avoiding that silence your whole life, it feels like psychological exposure. He's not trying to change you. He's not interested in saving anyone. He simply won't participate in a reality that isn't authentic. And that passive refusal feels like rejection, even though it's really just honesty. He treats you exactly how you are, not how you pretend to be. And that level of raw interaction is rare, maybe even painful, for people who live off performance. So the scary thing isn't that the Sigma attacks your identity. It's that he doesn't entertain it. And when no one plays along, you're left with only one option. Finally face the version of yourself you've been running from. And for most, that's far more terrifying than any confrontation ever could be. Number 5. He makes power look effortless, because it's not an act. Power for most people is theater, carefully staged, loud, and always a little desperate. They talk tough, posture hard, and dress the part, hoping someone will believe it before they stop believing it themselves. But with a Sigma, there's no performance. He doesn't try to look powerful because he's not seeking your recognition. His confidence isn't projected, it's contained. And that quiet containment is exactly what unsettles people who rely on attention to feel valid. There's no script to follow with him. He doesn't chase influence, but it seems to form around him anyway. People find themselves watching him without knowing why. It's in the way he moves, slow and deliberate, the way he listens but rarely interrupts, the way he speaks only when there's something worth saying. And that alone commands more presence than any loudmouth in the room ever could. His power isn't loud because it doesn't need to convince anyone. It just is. And that's the part that freaks people out, especially those who've built their image on shallow confidence. The Sigma doesn't need validation, and that makes others nervous. Because if he doesn't need them, then what value do they really hold? He makes people question their own power because his is rooted in authenticity. No overcompensation, no fake humility, just calm, grounded presence. And in a world obsessed with appearances, authenticity is rare and terrifying. It exposes the insecurity in others simply by existing. There's no gimmick to decode with him, no hidden agenda. That's what makes his energy so heavy. You can't manipulate someone who doesn't want anything from you. And you can't control someone who's already in control of himself. So instead of clashing with him, most people just shrink around him, unsure of why they feel smaller in his presence. The Sigma doesn't seek power. He just lives in alignment with himself. And in a world full of actors, nothing is more powerful or more feared than someone who stopped pretending a long time ago. Number 6. He's the only one who's willing to burn it all down, including himself. Most people won't walk away from the game because they've invested too much in the scoreboard: status, security, reputation, comfort. They're hostages to what they've built. But the Sigma? He'll burn it all down if it means staying true to himself. That's what makes him dangerous. Not his power over others, but his absolute refusal to be owned by anything, even his own success. You can't bribe him with comfort. You can't scare him with loss. He's already detached from the very things most people live and die for. Titles don't tempt him. Applause doesn't move him. He knows how quickly all of it can vanish, and he's not interested in being trapped by what he can't keep. So if the system stops aligning with who he is, he doesn't flinch, he walks, or sets a match to the whole thing. This is a man who doesn't fear collapse. He invites it when it means evolution. If staying silent cost him integrity, he speaks. If loyalty becomes a lie, he severs ties. If success becomes a cage, he'll walk into failure just to rebuild on truth. People think that makes him unstable, but in reality it's the purest form of self-mastery, choosing freedom over fear every single time. He's willing to lose not just comfort or approval, but himself, who he was, what he built, everything he once believed. Because the Sigma knows growth demands destruction, and most aren't willing to pay that price, but he is. That's what unnerves people. You can't control a man who's already let go of everything you're trying to use against him. Try threatening his image. He doesn't care. Take away his status. He never needed it. Pull the rug out from under him. He's already standing on instinct. He doesn't just survive the fire. He becomes it. Because when a man is willing to lose everything, even himself, he stops being predictable. He becomes untouchable. And in a world full of people begging to be saved, the Sigma is willing to drown if it means finding a deeper truth at the bottom. That's not recklessness. That's power stripped to its most terrifying core. Fearless, detached, and utterly free. Number 7. He understands you before you understand yourself. He doesn't ask a lot of questions. He doesn't need to. While most people are busy broadcasting themselves, talking, oversharing, performing, the Sigma is watching, quietly, patiently, without interrupting. And in that stillness, he picks up what others miss. A slight change in your tone, the micro-hesitation before you speak, that split-second flicker in your eyes when you're lying to yourself. He reads all of it, not because he's trying to manipulate you, but because observation is his native language. You don't even realize you're revealing yourself. That's what makes it unsettling. You're just being you, doing what you've always done. But every movement, every word, every silence you try to fill. It's data to him, not cold analysis, but intuitive pattern recognition. He sees your social armor, notes the cracks in it, and quietly traces them back to where they started. He can sense what you want before you admit it to yourself. He knows when you're bluffing, when you're performing, when you're secretly begging to be understood. And he doesn't confront you with it. He lets you expose yourself at your own pace. But inside, he's already mapped the terrain of your mind. It's a strange experience being around him. You feel seen, but not judged, exposed, but not attacked. That balance is what messes with people, because they're used to either being ignored or overanalyzed. The Sigma doesn't do either, he just knows. And the fact that he knows without needing you to explain, that kind of understanding is terrifying to someone who's spent their whole life hiding in plain sight. What makes it more intense is that he rarely shows his hand. You won't know how much he's picked up. He won't interrupt, won't offer unsolicited advice, won't try to fix you. He just lets you keep talking, knowing full well he already sees the whole picture. And by the time you realize it, it's too late. He's already inside your head. Not because he forced his way in, but because you opened the door without even knowing it. That's the power of someone who listens so deeply, you forget you're being listened to. Number 8, he'll let you think you're in control until you're not. The Sigma doesn't care about being in charge because he knows something most people don't. Control isn't taken, it's allowed. So he lets you believe you're leading, making the decisions, calling the shots. He doesn't challenge you, doesn't compete. In fact, he might even agree with you, step back, let you feel like the alpha. And because you're so used to people scrambling for authority, you take that silence as submission. But here's where the danger hides. The Sigma's passivity is never weakness, it's strategy. He's not surrendering power, he's loaning it to you. And while you're busy feeding off the illusion of control, he's observing how you use it. Whether you lead with integrity or ego, whether you build or dominate. He's studying you the whole time. And when he finally withdraws, emotionally, mentally, physically, that's when the entire illusion cracks. Suddenly the energy in the room changes. You don't know why, but everything feels unstable. You start second-guessing yourself. The same decisions you made so confidently feel shaky now. That certainty you had? Gone. That's because the Sigma was the unspoken axis everything was spinning around, and you didn't even know it, until it stopped. He never needed to overpower you. He just needed to not need you. And when someone doesn't need your approval, your leadership, or your attention, they become immune to your influence. That immunity is what destroys false control. Because deep down, people maintain power by being needed. And when the Sigma stops needing, he collapses your entire framework, quietly, efficiently. It's not revenge, it's not manipulation. It's just the natural result of detachment. The Sigma never played the game. You just thought he was part of it. And when he walks, you realize the whole dynamic depended on him more than you ever admitted. That's the part people don't recover from. Not the loss of power, but the realization that they never truly had it. And once you feel that kind of silent control, where someone could have crushed your ego but simply chose not to, you never forget it. Number 9, he's a ghost with a memory. He doesn't say much, and when he leaves, it's as if he was never really there. People forget him quickly, until they realize he never forgot them. Every word you said, every shift in your tone, every contradiction in your story, he logged it. Not obsessively, not emotionally, but methodically, like someone quietly building a psychological blueprint of everyone he meets. While you were busy treating the interaction as casual, he was downloading. Not just what you said, but how you said it, what you avoided, what made you uncomfortable, what your eyes did when your mouth lied. You may think the moment passed, but for him it's filed, sorted, and ready for later. Not to blackmail you, not to destroy you, just to understand you better than you understand yourself. And here's the unnerving part. He doesn't weaponize information immediately. He lets time do the sharpening. You might cross him, lie to him, underestimate him, and he'll say nothing. He won't flinch, won't retaliate, just absorb. People mistake that stillness for indifference, but it's actually calculation. He's letting you think you're safe, that you got away with it, that he's forgotten. He hasn't. And one day, without warning, he might pull up that memory. He might reference something you swore no one noticed. Drop a comment that slices right through your armor, clean, precise, and impossible to defend against. Or worse, he might use that stored knowledge to dismantle you completely without you ever seeing it coming. Because the Sigma doesn't forget, he stores, not to hold grudges, but to maintain clarity. He doesn't explode when betrayed, he records it. He doesn't panic when deceived, he archives it. And when the time is right, when the mask slips or the tables turn, he'll already have everything he needs. Not just to respond, but to dominate with surgical precision. So while you may forget that strange, quiet man who didn't say much, he remembers everything. And if your name ever reappears on his radar, he won't need to get to know you again. He already knows enough to end the conversation before it starts. Number 10. He can destroy without raising his voice. The Sigma's power isn't in shouting or confrontation. It's in the quiet withdrawal of everything you thought you had. He doesn't need to raise his voice or throw accusations to tear down what you've built around you. Instead, he simply steps back, pulls his attention, and lets the emptiness do the work. It's a slow, invisible unraveling that hits harder than any argument. When you've relied on someone's presence to validate your worth, to prop up your confidence, or to keep your social circle intact, the Sigma's silence is devastating. It's not what he says that hurts, it's what he doesn't say. The withdrawal of his energy, the subtle, cold refusal to engage, is a void that exposes cracks you never dared to face. He doesn't need to defend himself or explain his absence. His silence is a weapon sharper than any insult because it forces you to confront your own dependence. Without him, your alliances falter, your reputation loses its anchor, and the emotional safety net you counted on disappears. And that collapse happens without a fight, without drama, just a quiet, relentless disappearance. People panic trying to fill that void, throwing out desperate words and actions to bring him back. But the Sigma isn't interested in your chaos. He's already moved past it. And watching you crumble isn't satisfaction. It's simply the inevitable outcome of handing your power away to someone who can so easily take it back. That's the terrifying truth. His absence speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. He doesn't destroy with noise or fury. He destroys with nothing at all, and that's what makes it so brutal. Because when the Sigma walks away, what's left behind isn't just silence. It's the echo of everything you lost when you thought you had control. Number 11. He's immune to social currency. The Sigma male is immune to the social currency that most people are addicted to. He doesn't trade in likes, applause, status, or popularity. He's not performing for the crowd, climbing ladders, or chasing validation disguised as success. That makes him unpredictable. And in a society built on public perception, someone who doesn't care about perception at all is downright dangerous. You can't manipulate him with praise. You can't shame him with exclusion. You can't bait him with status symbols or attention. He sees right through the empty theater of social clout, and more importantly, he refuses to play the game. While others bend, posture, and self-edit just to be accepted, the Sigma remains untouched, unimpressed, and often invisible by choice. This independence shakes people at their core. Because if you're someone who depends on being seen, liked, followed, or admired to feel valuable, then someone who doesn't need any of that is a direct threat to your identity. His mere existence challenges the unspoken rules you live by, that popularity equals worth, that approval is everything, that relevance means survival. To the Sigma, none of that matters. His self-worth is rooted in something far deeper, something unshakable. Principles, purpose, truth. Things that can't be bought, liked, or retweeted. And because he can't be bought, he can't be controlled. That's what makes him terrifying to the socially dependent. He exposes how fragile their sense of power really is, how empty their influence becomes when it doesn't land on someone who cares. The Sigma's immunity to social currency isn't an act of rebellion. It's a natural consequence of having nothing to prove. And when you can't be bribed, blackmailed, or baited by attention, you operate in a world that no one can touch. That kind of freedom doesn't just confuse people. It threatens to unravel everything they've built their lives around. Number 12. He doesn't want revenge, he wants understanding. The Sigma doesn't carry grudges in the way most people expect. He's not looking for dramatic revenge or explosive confrontations. What he truly seeks is understanding, a deep, unspoken comprehension of who he is and why he acts the way he does. When that understanding is denied or withheld, something shifts inside him. Instead of lashing out, he retreats, not physically but emotionally and mentally. This withdrawal is precise and deliberate, like a surgical cut that leaves no scar but removes everything vital. He won't argue or fight to prove his point. He won't beg for empathy or explanation. Instead, he simply erases you from the parts of his world that matter, the emotional connections, the trust, the openness. And unlike a fiery outburst that leaves noise and chaos in its wake, this erasure is silent and absolute. It's a void where you once existed, a cold absence that's impossible to fill or repair. This kind of removal is far more terrifying because it offers no closure, no chance to make amends. There's no chance to confront what went wrong or to patch the damage with apologies or explanations. You don't get the comfort of a fight or the catharsis of an argument, just emptiness. And that emptiness is haunting because it forces you to face the fact that sometimes the most powerful response isn't noise or revenge, it's disappearance. When the Sigma chooses to cut ties this way, it's permanent. He doesn't look back or linger on what was lost. He moves forward, carrying the understanding he craved alone, leaving behind nothing but silence and absence. That silent erasure is his final message, and it's far more devastating than any words could ever be. The true fear the world holds toward the Sigma male isn't about loud threats or overt dominance. It's about the quiet, unyielding force of a man who operates on an entirely different wavelength. He doesn't seek power through noise, nor does he crave approval through conformity. Instead, his power lies in his profound detachment from the familiar, his willingness to burn down every safe bridge, and his capacity to see and accept truths most would rather ignore. This is a man who doesn't just refuse to fit in, he disappears into the unknown to discover what lies beyond the limits others are too afraid to cross. That refusal to play by the rules, combined with his razor-sharp intuition and unshakable self-possession, makes him utterly unpredictable and deeply unsettling. He understands you before you even understand yourself, quietly mapping your fears and desires without ever revealing the full extent of what he knows. He gifts control only to reclaim it when you least expect it, showing you that power isn't taken, it's allowed, and it can vanish just as easily as it appeared. He remembers every slight, every hidden motive, not out of spite, but because his memory is a weapon sharpened by patience and precision. And when he withdraws, his silence speaks louder than any shout ever could, dismantling reputations and emotional foundations without lifting a finger. The Sigma male's real threat is his willingness to burn it all down, including himself, to stay true to his path. While others cling desperately to comfort and status, he walks away from everything that no longer serves his evolution, terrifying in his fearlessness and absolute freedom. That freedom exposes the fragile scaffolding of societal norms and expectations, revealing just how tenuous most people's control over their lives really is. In the end, the scariest thing about a Sigma isn't what he does to others. It's what he does to himself, and by extension, what he forces everyone around him to confront. The uncomfortable, often painful truth that freedom comes at a price, that control is an illusion, and that the deepest power lies not in domination, but in detachment. To be in the presence of a Sigma is to be reminded that real strength doesn't roar. It is quiet, relentless, and uncompromising. And that realization is something the world both envies and fears, because it challenges everything we think we know about power, control, and identity. If you found this insight as eye-opening as it was powerful, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button to join a community that dives deep into truths most won't touch. Like this video. If it challenged what you thought you knew, share it to spark conversation among those ready to see beyond the surface, and drop a comment below with your thoughts, because your perspective matters here. Together, we're not just learning about Sigma males, we're uncovering the raw realities of power, freedom, and identity. Stay curious, stay bold, and let's keep this journey going.